What's up, Flannersworth? We're back live one final time for the 2025-26 NFL season. Excited to be here with you. I'm going to be doing the usual breakdown position by position, starting with quarterbacks, then running backs, receivers, tight ends, defenses, kickers. I'll be making my lineups, taking questions, etc., etc. You know the drill. All the usual stuff. It's the Super Bowl. This is an exciting one. We've got the Patriots and the Seahawks playing in San Francisco. Kind of a tough one because we have kind of a low scoring expected game. We don't have any like super big defensive weaknesses, but I think that there are some angles that we can play. I'm excited to break it down with you. Of course, if you have thoughts, feel free to share them in the chat. While you're coming in, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. I know this is the final breakdown of this NFL season, but of course the NFL is kind of nonstop. I'll be doing best ball stuff throughout the summer. Maybe there'll be new stuff. I'll be doing weekly shows with Mathology, all that good stuff. So would love to have you here, subscribed to the YouTube channel. Of course, if you're not already subscribed to the Discord, there's also a Flannersworth Discord that is free to join. There's a link in the description of this video. Always happy to see new faces in there as well. How you guys doing? Playing a lot of the Emerald City Route Artist. I don't know what that means. Yeah, Darnold is hard to figure out. I will say, I'll start. We're going to start with quarterbacks right away. I have been so wrong about Sam Darnold. I kind of thought he was going to fall apart in the playoffs in these important games, and he has proven me wrong every step of the way. He's been like pretty solid. He is, I wouldn't say he's been awesome, but he was really good in that Rams game. Made some really nice throws. I thought that he, kind of showed some weaknesses in, who do they play in the first game? San Francisco, maybe, where he had a couple like could have been turnovers that didn't end up being turnovers, much to the dismay of my lineups, but he's been mostly pretty good. TC Dynasty asking, is Arroyo in or out? I don't know yet. My guess is that he's out, but we won't know for another hour and a half. We'll find out. I don't know if I'll still be doing the show at this point. I started the show at a time that I thought maybe I'll still be live when inactives come out. Wanted to get it out early because got to go, to a Super Bowl party, the usual stuff. So couldn't do this up until lock like I usually do. But I might still be live when inactives come out. But you'll be able to see at 5 Eastern, 4 Central. You can just on Twitter go search Elijah Arroyo or Seahawks inactives, and you'll find out if Elijah Arroyo is in or out. I don't think it's the most impactful thing. I mean, he could make somewhat of a difference, but in his first game back, and just looking at, this is the weekly route share report, Elijah Arroyo wasn't really playing that much even before he got hurt. He had kind of, he had been very impactful early on, and then they kind of were going away from Elijah Arroyo anyway. So I don't really expect him to run more than like 20% of routes. I'd be kind of surprised if he does, even if he is active, run more than that. So I don't think Elijah Arroyo's being active or inactive makes that big of a difference. But we'll talk about that once we get to tight ends. I'll get into quarterbacks now. All right, I'm getting into it. Starting, okay, Drake May, 11,000 projected for 49.9% flex ownership, 10.9% captain ownership. I ran the first run of the Sims, for anybody who doesn't know. I just run it without making any adjustments just to see what I'll get naturally from Run the Sims, given their ownership projections, their usage rates, all that kind of stuff. So this is just what I got naturally running 300 lineups. I use the settings for large field tournaments because that is what I play. So I used 15,000 total lineups, did a contest size field of 15,000, number of Sims 10,000, top heavy payout structure because those are the contests I play. And I ran it through the shady portfolio diversifier, so I get kind of a portfolio that's not going to cannibalize itself as much. So those are the settings that I use, and using those settings with Drake May projected for 50% flex and 11% captain ownership, I got to 53% flex and 17% captain. It's funny, the first piece of content that I did this week was for Roto Grinders, and of course, that's the expert survey. Kind of got to get it out earlier. At the time I did that, Drake May was being projected for like 25% captain ownership or something ridiculous like that. So like one of my bigger takes was, yeah, I'm going to be under the field on Drake May. Like I don't want to play a ton of Drake May if he's going to be chalky. Typically, on slates where you're expecting lower scores, which I think is well within the range of outcomes for this game. Obviously, I think there's kind of a wide range of outcomes here, but I think like there's a pretty good chance this is going to be a low scoring game. In low scoring games, especially for non-rushing quarterbacks, which, Drake May kind of does run a bit. But for non-rushing quarterbacks, low-scoring games are really bad because other positions you can rack up points for with, receptions. Obviously, you get a point per reception. Quarterback doesn't get that, but then they also get more points per yard, like both running or receiving. You get, a fantasy point every 10 yards, whereas a quarterback, it takes 25 yards. So in low scoring games, the quarterback typically is not going to put up a lot of fantasy points because they don't get the receptions. They don't get as many yards just from, short stuff. So it's tougher for the quarterbacks to put up a lot of fantasy points without obviously a lot of yards can help, but then touchdowns and stuff. So I usually am going to be less inclined to play a lot of the quarterbacks in games that I expect to be low scoring. Drake May is kind of an exception because he does run a fair amount, and especially in recent weeks, Drake May has been running quite a bit in the playoffs. I pulled up his game log here just so we could look at it, but in the 3 weeks of the playoffs, he has 2 games where he had 10 rushing attempts, 66 and 65 yards. So, all of that analysis doesn't really apply to Drake May as much, the not wanting to play quarterbacks in a low scoring game. On top of that, for Drake May, if you look at schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed over the last 5 weeks, and again, as we look through this, there's not many great matchups here, and it's not great for Drake May either. And this is, you got to look on the far left column to see the defense. But the Seattle defense, middling, negative 2.4 overall. So it's been kind of a negative matchup for quarterbacks, even if it is, kind of middle of the road in terms of all the teams. But the one spot where they do allow more than average fantasy points is rushing 2 quarterbacks. If you look at, you sort by fantasy points allowed 2 quarterbacks via the ground, it's the 4th most. So Seattle has actually been giving up a fair number of fantasy points over expected via the ground to quarterbacks. So I do like Drake May. And if he does come in at 11% ownership as opposed to 24, 25%, whatever it was when I was doing my initial analysis, and this is, I will say, this is the lowest I think that I've seen for Drake May, but not by that much. This is more in line with what we're seeing around the industry right now, is that he's expected to be kind of barely double digit in terms of ownership. Oh, no, this is never mind. This is the lowest I've seen. I had not looked at this. Roto-Grinders has Drake May at 6% captain. If he came in at 6%, yeah, that's awesome. I think Drake May would be a fantastic captain play at 6% ownership. My expectation is that he comes in more 11 to 15%. Wouldn't be that surprised if he comes in higher, just because we don't have a ton of sure things on this slate. So I think he could end up being a bit higher owned than anybody is expecting. But all this is to say, excuse me, I think Drake May is a great captain. If he comes in the 10 to 15% captain ownership range, I'm into it. You can see here they have the captain rate. So this is the optimal rate. Run the Sims has Drake May optimal 12.2% of the time. Oh, and I should note, Run the Sims is free for the Super Bowl. So if any of you have not tried Run the Sims and you want to check it out for the Super Bowl, they are allowing you to check it out for free. I don't think you'll be able to use my promo code. I mean, it won't matter for you if you have the opportunity to use the promo code Flannel, and you think you'll spend money there in the future, and maybe I'll get money out of that. I don't even know if I will, but for your sake, if you have not checked out Run the Sims, I do recommend checking it out. Fantastic product, free for the Super Bowl. So if you haven't checked it out already, now is a good opportunity to do so. Anyway, so they have Drake May at 12.2% projected captain ownership, optimal 12.2% of the time at 10.9% captain ownership. This is lower than I would have guessed for captain optimal for Drake May, but not by that much. Regardless, I think he's a strong play in that 10 to 15% ownership range. I think that he should run a fair amount on Seattle. It's a tough matchup overall, but again, that's kind of what you're getting in this game. We don't have any real weak spots on these defenses. So I think Drake May looks great. And as far as stacking goes, I think, YSNES says I'm seeing 15% on May captain. That's on another site, you're saying, or do I need to refresh? I think that this is pretty recent. So I think Drake May, as far as captain goes, he's 66 and 65 yards in 2 of the 3 playoff games so far. So I do think you could play him unstacked at captain. I think most of the time when I have Drake May at captain, I would prefer to have at least one stacking partner. I think if I were using an optimizer instead of Sims, I would probably require at least one pass catcher, but I would include running backs in that. So I would say if Drake May is my captain, I want at least one of all the Patriots receivers, tight ends, and running backs. I think that's a good kind of middle ground for how to play Drake May at captain. But I think he could get there without pass catchers, just because, again, I mean, one of those games he had 65 yards and a touchdown on the ground. If this game is low scoring, like there's a good chance that if he does that, you would want Drake May to be unstacked at captain. So I think he looks great. Sam Darnold, not running all that much. I pulled up his game log as well, because it is interesting just to look at. I'm looking primarily at this column here, the rushing attempts column. It has come up throughout the year. So you see early on in the season, a lot of 0, 1s, 2s. There was a little 4 and 3 here, little spike, but more so in recent weeks, he's been running a lot more. Starting in December, 3 rushing attempts, 4, 3, 3, 6 against San Francisco. Didn't run at all against San Francisco in the playoffs, but that was a 41-6 win, so we really didn't need to run at all. And then back to 3 rushing attempts. Now, the other thing to look at here is not a ton of yards. Even when he is running a lot, Sam Darnold not really picking up a lot of yards. He does have, some history of running a bit, so this is a little bit lower than you would expect for Sam Darnold with these kind of rush attempts. I mean, 6 for 9 yards, obviously not that much, 3 for 9. But I think that in a must-win game, we could see the rushing attempts come back up to this, kind of 6, 7 rushing attempts, in which case he would look good. I'm not treating him the same way as Drake May, though, where I would play him unstacked anywhere. Like Drake May, I think, that's the other. Drake May, if you have him in the flex, I think you can play Drake May unstacked in the flex for sure. Sam Darnold, I don't think I would play him unstacked anywhere. I think it's fairly unlikely for Sam Darnold to be in the winning lineup without bringing along at least one pass catcher. It could happen if we have, JSN has kind of a 15 fantasy point kind of performance, but it's not enough given his salary. Like there are paths to Sam Darnold, or if he does just rush for a touchdown, which hasn't done much recently, but it's still, I think, within his bag of tricks. I think Sam Darnold could get there unstacked, but I think for the most part, if I were using an optimizer, I would require a pass catcher with Sam Darnold, regardless of where he is in my lineup. If I have him in the captain spot, I would prefer to have him with multiple pass catchers. As you can see here, doesn't look nearly as great as Drake May at Run the Sim, so he's projected for 38% flex and 3% captain ownership. Even with this kind of low ownership on Sam Darnold, I only got to 36% flex and 2% captain ownership. If the game is low scoring, it's really tough to see Sam Darnold putting up a big score because, again, quarterback, you just kind of need like a lot of yards, a lot of scoring. There's not really ways for a non-rushing quarterback to pick up a lot of fantasy points without like volume. You need volume from the quarterbacks, whereas other positions, it's easier to get there without a ton of volume, especially given the price tags on the quarterback is the other the other factor. Obviously, a $3,000 player puts up 7 fantasy points. That could be in the winning lineup, whereas if you get 10 out of a quarterback at 11,000, it's not going to be enough. So Sam Darnold coming in a little bit under the field here. I think it'd be like, if you want to play it differently, if you want to play it as though the Seahawks are just awesome, their passing game is great, like go ahead. I think that's totally viable. But as of right now, I'm under the field. I think that is kind of how I expect to play it. I'm also not that far under the field. I think the field has it about right, about 40 to 45% total ownership on Sam Darnold. Not a ton at captain. I do prefer him in the flex. What else? Oh yeah, in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed overall, it's been a tough matchup with the Patriots. The second worst matchup for quarterbacks schedule adjusted over the last 5 weeks. So tough one for Sam Darnold. Obviously not a great one for Drake May either. Seattle but they have been kind of middle of the pack and again, giving up more on the ground to quarterbacks. I think that's it as far as quarterbacks go. So I'll move on to running backs, but I will take a sip of water and check in on chat before I get there. Sean says, I like to run the Sims, but I suggest going for the full package. I just don't play enough money to use it. I think you can use the full package right now if you want to, Sean. I think it's free. I could be wrong, but I think the full package is free right now. Am I setting a salary cap on all my lineups? I would be if I were using an optimizer. Probably not something too prohibitive. It would probably be like 49,400 because I'm using Run the Sims. If I do anything, I can just go. There's a filter after you run the Sims and get all your lineups. You can filter for max number of dupes. So I would probably be more inclined to do it that way. Usually, the reason we leave salary is just to limit the number of dupes of your lineup. And it's kind of when you're using optimizer, one of the easier ways to just kind of put your thumb on the scale. But since I'm using Sims, you can just say I want to limit myself to 2 dupes or whatever, which it'll be a lot more because that's 2 dupes within a 15,000 lineup field, and we're talking about a 200,000 lineup field. So even setting at 2 dupes, you'll probably be duped double-digit times. But that's I probably would do that instead of setting a salary cap. But yeah, if I were using an optimizer, it'd probably be something like 49,400 or something. We'll take a look at the lineups later and see what they look like when you leave it on the table. But I think this is definitely a slate where I would be willing to leave a fair amount of salary on the table because I think there's a lot of uncertainty here and a lot of cheaper players that could get there. So yeah, I think it's a good idea. Sean says, may both kickers and defenses fill in the rest? Sure. Yeah, I can look at FanDuel. I'll take a look at FanDuel after we go through the positions. And then, yeah, so far I've not looked at FanDuel using Run the Sims. I guess we could do that at some point also. But yeah, I'll at least look at it on Roto Grinders, take a look at the ownership, give my thoughts there. Sean, this is my thought as well. Sean says, I personally think this game could be a total crap game with 2 good defenses that can get to the quarterback. That's kind of exactly what I'm thinking. All right. Playing in large field GPPs on games like this with a lot more casual players, do you like to narrow your captain pool, going overweight on more contrarian captains, or keep it more open? So I've always been one to kind of spread out my captain pool. So you mean expand your captain pool, right? Going overweight on more contrarian captains. I usually just kind of, when I'm using optimizer, I just set it at a cap of 20%. Not the most sophisticated way of doing things, but I've always just kind of spread out my captain exposures a fair amount. With the more, yeah, you are right though. With more casual players in the field, you're probably going to see a lot more of like JSN, obviously. Walker, Diggs, I think those will be kind of like the name brands will probably be a little more popular. So if you wanted to play more of a Keyshawn Booty or I think Stevenson will probably be a little bit lower owned. I don't know. Maybe he's more of a name brand at this point. But I think it's probably generally a good thought to play more of the more contrarian captain options because I do think you're probably right that the more casual players are going to be playing the chalkier players more, like the players who have been awesome fantasy wise. So that's probably a good idea. Run the Sim says Kenneth Walker's projection much higher than the industry. Interesting. I have not looked at that. Barner's going to throw a touchdown, Sean says. Okay. Now we're getting wild. Wait, what? Jack Westover in play since his sister hit that parlay on Seahawks and Pats in the Super Bowl. I am not familiar with Jack Westover's sister hitting a parlay. All right. Moving on to running backs. So really only 4 that are in play here. Cam Akers, I believe, was active for the last game, and I played some of him and didn't do anything. I don't think he played at all. We can take a look at that. I'll get rid of some of these tabs because we already looked through the game logs for Sam Darnold and Drake May. Yeah, we can move on to running backs. So Kenneth Walker, yeah, I mean, look at this. Yeah, Run the Sims is loving Kenneth Walker. It is a tough spot for Kenneth Walker. We'll start with the Seahawks side. Looking at schedule adjusted for running backs over the last 5 weeks. This has been a bottom 6 matchup for running backs against the Patriots, especially negative for running backs through the air. It's more neutral actually on the ground lately, but overall not an easy spot for Kenneth Walker. Looking at the usage, so this is the full playoffs for the Seahawks. So, and I guess we have a game of Zach Charbonnet in there, but 38 total carries for Kenneth Walker, leading the Seahawks. I mean, you can look at the split here, 38, 62% of snaps for Kenneth Walker. He has 7 targets in the playoffs. Looking at just the most recent game, 19 carries. So this is a game without Zach Charbonnet. 19 carries for Kenneth Walker. Saw 4 targets on 27.5% route participation. I do think that George Holani, you can see here, 3 rushing attempts, 35.4% of snaps. Saw 4 targets on 42.5% route participation. That's pretty intriguing also to me. So looking at Run the Sims, they have Kenneth Walker projected for 39.4% flex ownership, 24.2% captain ownership. Using those numbers, I got to 52% in the flex, 33% captain. I'm going to be cutting back on this. I don't think I want my entire night to be reliant on Kenneth Walker. He's always been kind of a boom bust player. Now, when he gets opportunities like this where he is the lead back, he's very talented. He can break off long runs. Certainly could be optimal and the optimal captain. I don't think I am going to be as high on him as Run the Sims is, and you can see they have him at optimal 64% of the time in the flex and 40% of the time in the flex and 22% at captain. That's interesting that he's captain rate 22%. I'm still getting to 33%, so I'm getting over the field, even though he is looks a little overowned based on ownership versus optimal rate. That's interesting. Regardless, I think I'm going to end up cutting back on this. I'm still going to have over, probably Kenneth Walker in over 50% of my lineups, but I will be significantly under what I'm getting right now. Rotogrinders has him at 21% captain and 45% flex. So they have him 66% total ownership. Run the Sims has him at pretty similar. Okay. Yeah, they're pretty similar in terms of ownership. But Run the Sims is, I'm getting just a ton of Kenneth Walker. I think I will be cutting back on that. I'm actually pretty intrigued by George Holani, just looking at the most recent game. I mean, four targets on 42.5% route participation. Ran more routes than Kenneth Walker in that game. Saw the same number of targets. I think that he he obviously didn't take on the full Zach Charbonnet role, but Kenneth Walker only played 62% of snaps, whereas George Holani played 35.4. I don't know. I think George Holani is pretty intriguing to me, all things considered. Given his price tag, given that they clearly they don't want to give Kenneth Walker 100% of snaps, and this was in a close game with the Rams. They played a lot of George Holani, so I think that George Holani actually. No, they've got him at 24% flex and 1% captain ownership, so 25% total ownership. I only got to 4%. I'm curious what his ownership is elsewhere. So at Roto Grinders, George Holani projected for 20% flex ownership. And how much captain? 3% captain ownership, so a little bit less, not a ton. And they have more at captain. But I mean, if you've watched these shows throughout the year, you know that I tend to be a big fan of playing the number 2 running backs, especially in split backfields. Like if you get a split backfield, you get the second running back much cheaper. You get that standalone value for George Holani. I mean, at 2,400, if he's targeted 4 times again, and has 3 carries or something, that's not that bad in terms of usage for a player at his salary. But then obviously you have awesome contingent upside if anything were to happen to Kenneth Walker, which obviously not super likely, but it happens. Then suddenly everybody will want George Holani. He would look like the best play on the slate. And with this being the Super Bowl where we do get more casuals in here, I don't think that a ton of people are going to play a lot of George Holani. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is, 20% total ownership or something like that. Still, I think most people are using projections where he looks pretty good. But I think that I am in favor of George Holani. I think that I'll probably be moving some of Kenneth Walker's usage to George Holani. I just want to look at one other site. Yeah, okay. Yeah, his ownership does not look. Looks like it's higher overall at Run the Sims than I have seen elsewhere. So I'm kind of intrigued by George Holani. I think that, again, he has standalone, he has contingent value. Usually I like the number 2 running backs in part because they come with really low ownership. And obviously if he comes in at 25%, I will be kind of kicking myself for playing a lot. But I think that I want to get to about 25% and then hope that the field comes in well under that. And if the field matches me, it's not the end of the world. I think that he's not a terrible play at 25% ownership. I still think just given his usage in the very small sample we have of Zach Charbonnet being out, 23 snaps, 3 carries, and 4 targets and more routes than Kenneth Walker, that looks great. I'm actually curious now to see what the inputs look like. Yeah, so Run the Sims giving Kenneth Walker 14.5% receiving market share, George Holani 5.6%. I think I'm going to adjust this. If I had Adam on the show, I'd ask him why the big disparity here, just based on what we saw in that one game. I think George Holani could, kind of be closer to matching Kenneth Walker in terms of receiving market share. Maybe not. Maybe they lean more on the veteran in the Super Bowl, but at relatively low ownership, 2,400. I want to take some shots there on George Holani. Again, I'll be shooting for like 25%. I think George Holani. And Kenneth Walker again. I'll probably have him in 50 to 60% of my lineups, but I don't need him to be in 85% of my lineups. That seems, I think that there are paths to failure here. Again, Kenneth Walker, I talked about this in the last video, but like you watch him, it's like he has those plays where he just looks awesome. He breaks one off and it's a 50-yard touchdown. He also half the time looks like he's running the wrong direction. Like he's just like, he's always looking for holes, and he'll go hard trying to find that hole, and run well out of his way, which can be great. And it can mean that he has some games where he has, 15 carries for 40 yards because he just can't find those holes. He has a lot of negative plays. So I am, going to be cutting back, moving some of the Kenneth Walker usage to George Holani to get more there. All right. And then on the Patriots side, also very interesting. So we have Ramondre Stevenson, 8,800 projected for 39% flex and 11% captain ownership. I got to 44% flex, 6% captain. Trevion Henderson, 3,800 projected for 6% flex, 0.4% captain. I got to 22% flex, 0.3% captain. Now, again, you look at the matchup here. It's not an easy one with Seattle. This is the 3rd worst matchup for running backs, schedule adjusted over the last 5 weeks. So really tough matchup for Patriots running backs. Looking at the usage for the Patriots running backs. So in the playoffs overall, so 3 games played, 51 carries for Ramondre Stevenson. That's 17 per game plus 10 targets on 53% route participation. Trevion Henderson, 24 carries and 3 targets. So 8 carries and a target per game for Trevion Henderson. That looks like not that bad of usage for Henderson given his price tag, and like decent price tag for Stevenson given his usage. And then you look at just the most recent game in the conference championship. It was a totally different split. It was all Ramondre Stevenson, 25 carries in that game, playing in the snow, 2 targets on 48.3% route participation. Trevion Henderson, just 3 carries in that game, 6.3% of snaps. He only played 4 total snaps in that game in the snow. 0 targets, 0% route participation. So there is risk that Trevion Henderson is just a complete afterthought, like it's just the Ramondre Stevenson show once again. Again, Stevenson, 94% of snaps in that game to 6% for Trevion Henderson. Pretty insane split for the Patriots, favoring Stevenson over Henderson in the conference championship game. So that is the threat if you play a ton of Henderson. But I think that this is a game where the offenses might struggle. They like their first look. They might struggle to get moving, just doing what they want to do out the gate, which would probably be they start with Stevenson, and they might have to kind of find ways to get unique, get the ball into the hands of explosive players. So I think it is possible that Henderson, it's probable that he plays more than 6% of snaps. I think that was probably an outlier, probably a result of weirdly trusting trusting Stevenson more in the snow, which given Stevenson's like the narrative coming into the season, just like he's going to lose his job because he fumbles too much. It's funny how much like Vrabel loves him. He really trusts him. Stevenson seems to have earned earned the trust of the coaches, giving him 25 carries in a must-win game in the snow. So it's possible they continue that, and it's just the Stevenson show. I sort of think it's likely that Trevion Henderson ends up getting at least a little bit more work than he got last week, and possibly a lot more work. Like if it ends up being a 50-50 split, I won't totally understand it. I won't know where that came from, but it would not be the most shocking thing to see the Patriots split it a lot more. I'm curious to hear other people's thoughts on this. Like it was surprising to me to see Stevenson get such a huge workload in that game. And I don't know what to make of this. Like, is that going to hold? Does anybody have any thoughts on why Ramondre Stevenson played 94% of snaps and Trevion Henderson was just 6%? Is it just trusting the veteran in must-win games? In which case, you would expect it to hold once again. I don't know, but I think I like Ramondre Stevenson quite a bit. I think that he looks like a fantastic play. Like he's not really being played like a guy who had 25 carries last week, and more targets also, like ran a ton more routes. He's being played kind of like the guy who's splitting carries 65-35 or something. So I do like Ramondre Stevenson at 8,800. I think he's a fantastic captain play if he's only going to get 11% captain ownership, because again, 25 carries is at least within the realm of possibility for Ramondre Stevenson. And even in a tough matchup, like if he gets 25 carries, I would want all of the Ramondre Stevenson. Obviously, that also kind of requires continuing to move the ball. But if he sees more targets, he gets kind of shorter targets, picks up some fantasy points via short targets. It's kind of what you need in lower scoring games also. So I think Stevenson looks great. I also do like Henderson. 3,800, he's more expensive than George Holani, but he's also getting much, much lower ownership. I kind of don't trust the 6% projected ownership, which is, I think everywhere has it like that. So that's not a run the Sims thing, having him at really low ownership. That is how the industry, oh, never mind. Rotogriner says him at 15%. I think they're kind of the outlier in terms of the projected ownership, it looks like. I'm going to refresh, make sure everything's up to date. Yeah, they have Stevenson at 40, Henderson at 15. Interesting. So RG does have Henderson higher owned, and that's a big difference. 6% versus 15%. I sort of suspect it will come up above this 6%. Like he's just too big of a name for Trevion Henderson to be that low owned, I think. But who knows? If he comes in at 15%, I think that is like where it should be. Like I think 15% seems about right for Trevion Henderson. But if he comes in single digits, I will certainly want to be above the field there. All right, just catching up on chat. Yeah, Nick says all year Vrabel has sung the Ramondre song. Yeah, I mean, it's true. They have loved him. Blizzard conditions, 25 carries. Yep. All right. Nivorn says he has 40% Holani. Definitely doesn't want that much. I don't hate it. I think that playing a lot of Holani is fine. He also, again, they could just lean on the veteran even more here. I was surprised to see how much they played Holani in that last game, but they seem to trust him. But ultimately, yeah, if Trevion Henderson comes in at 6%, I would want to be well over the field. If he comes in at 15%, I would probably want to bring this down to, the 10%-ish range. So I'll have to adjust potentially on my Trevion Henderson. But regardless, if Ramondre Stevenson is owned in less than 50% of the field as he's being projected, I would want to be above that for sure. I think I'll probably shoot for, I'll probably have similar ownership on Kenneth Walker and Ramondre Stevenson, both in that 60 to 65% range. Seems about right to me. And both of the backup running backs, as you might expect if you've ever watched one of these shows, I'll probably be above weight on both George Holani and Trevion Henderson, because both have some standalone value, probably, although last game Trevion didn't, but then obviously awesome contingent upside regardless. anything else on running backs? I think I covered, yeah, we covered the running backs pretty well. So we can get into the wide receivers. Oh, that's interesting. I did not remember this. Bash Party says Stevenson got poked in the eye in the divisional round, which got more usage to Henderson. So you actually think that the conference championship where Stevenson played 94% might have been like their goal, and then they were forced to play some Stevenson. Henderson. That's interesting. Anyone think this is a blowout, Mike asks? Could be. Shout out to everyone in the chat, including Neil Orfield. What's up? Keep up a good work on the channel. Appreciate it. And shout out from the South Bronx. Nice. Good to have you. Henderson under 20 weight. Oh, 20 yards. Okay. I was like 20 carries. Yeah, that's, unless there's an injury to Stevenson. I mean, he is explosive. He doesn't need a ton of carries to get, but like, especially if that's rushing, that does include receiving. Yeah, that does seem like a good bet. I won't call it free money, but a good bet for sure. Okay. Moving on to wide receivers. And this is, it's kind of an interesting one, so we'll bring it back here. Starting with JSN, who is the only real sure thing at wide receiver, I would say. Like, you can count on a lot of usage for JSN. 11,600. He is the most expensive player on the slate, if I'm not mistaken. 44% projected flex ownership, 26% projected captain ownership. Interestingly, I'm almost with the field. 25% at captain, only got to 21% flex of JSN. So, given this ownership, the Sims are saying he's still a great captain play, but we're going to be well under the field at flex on JSN. So maybe as somebody brought up in chat earlier, maybe the field kind of condensed. Oh no, sorry, I'm getting this backwards. No, I'm with the field at captain. So this is not a play the contrarian captain's suggestion here. It is a play the contrarian flex. Interesting. But JSN, obviously, I don't think I need to sell you on JSN. We'll just take a look at his usage in the playoffs so far. Kind of in line with the rest of the season. 93.2% route participation. Actually, this is low relative to the season. 16 targets, targeted 8 times per game in their 2 playoff games. And of course, could see an increase on that anytime. 12 targets in the conference championship game. If the game stays close, this is kind of more what you expect from JSN. He only had 4 targets in the other game. That was against San Francisco, where they just absolutely blew out the 49ers. So in a closer game, you would expect JSN to be heavily involved. 33% target share in that game. On the full season, I also want to just take a look at full season end zone inside the 20 targets, and it's JSN by a mile on the Seahawks. 14 end zone targets in 19 games on the season in total. 22 inside the 20 targets for JSN. Awesome usage for JSN. I don't really think I need to sell anybody on JSN. Don't need to spend a lot of time here. Like, he is I think he's the best projected player on the slate. Let me actually double check that. Does that include? Yeah, he's the best projected player on the slate by nearly 3 full fantasy points. JSN looks great. You can play him at captain. You can play him in the flex. I actually think the ownership projections seem about fair, although the Sims are telling me I should be under the field there. Maybe I'll be a little bit under the field on JSN just as a way, because difficult to play lesser duped lineups. I think with a ton of JSN, like, it's easier to get different by not playing JSN, but he's obviously a great play. If you wanted to play him in every lineup, I have no issue with that. If you want to full fade him, no issue with that. Like, most likely, most of the time, he's going to be one of the highest scorers on the slate, but he's also the most expensive, and he's going to be super high owned. Outside of JSN on the Seahawks, we have Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed. I was looking at the coverage stuff, like the man versus zone. not anything really interesting there for the Seahawks because the Patriots are just kind of middle of the pack in terms of how much man coverage they play. So I don't really find anything there for Rashid Shaheed, who sometimes I want to play him in certain matchups. Nothing really there. It's kind of a middle of the pack matchup against the Patriots in terms of the coverage. In terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to receivers, this is, where are we? Oh, middle of the pack for wide receivers. Sorry, no, against the Patriots is what I'm looking for. Why can't I find it? Patriots. Oh, still middle of the pack for receivers against the Patriots. Slightly negative overall, actually, in the top half in terms of schedule adjusted, but it's a slightly negative matchup overall for receivers against the Patriots. None of the like slot versus out wide really stands out. Like it's plus 2.1 for right wide receivers, I guess, against the Patriots. So there is a slight positive for right wide receivers. If you want to factor that in, I guess I can take a look at who is the right wide receiver on the Seahawks. Where was that? That would be Rashid Shaheed if you want to play that angle. But regardless, it's overall kind of a tougher matchup for receivers on the Seahawks. Rashid Shaheed does have 3 carries in. Like he's had a little bit more usage in the playoff games. I think three total carries in the 2 playoff games. Also has, I believe, 5 targets in that span, which not a lot, but it's more than he had been getting in the regular season since he joined the Seahawks. So maybe again with 2 more weeks of preparation and seeing how good he's been returning the football, maybe they try to get Rashid Shaheed more involved here. Also would make sense with Zach Charbonnet out, and now they're reliant on just Kenneth Walker and George Holani. Kind of makes sense to try to get Rashid Shaheed the ball more in short yardage situations. So I wouldn't be that surprised to see him get, a couple carries once again, maybe some short targets. Looking at the ownership, so we have Cooper Kupp is 5,200 projected for 26% flex and 2% captain ownership. I got to 12% flex, 1% captain. Rashid Shaheed, 4,200 projected for 22% flex and 2% captain. I got to 14% flex and basically none at captain. Jake Bobo is 1,600 projected for 1% flex, none at captain. I got to 4% flex. And then Tariq Young is 1,000 projected for basically no ownership. I got to 1%. That all seems fine for Bobo and Tariq Young. Like getting a little bit, I don't want to be getting a ton there, but having them in the player pool I think makes sense. Just looking at the playoffs so far, so 2 games for the Seahawks. It's been 11 targets for Cooper Kupp. He has been number 2, well beating out Rashid Shaheed in terms of targets with 11 to Rashid Shaheed's 5. 73% route participation for Cooper Kupp to 61% for Rashid Shaheed. He is $1,000 more expensive. They're sort of and then Jake Bobo has 3 targets on 17% route participation so far in the playoffs. Tariq Young has only run 3 routes, has not been targeted. Kupp and Shaheed sort of like polar opposites in the types of fantasy players they are. Like Cooper Kupp, you're getting a lot of short targets. You kind of need volume to get there. Rashid Shaheed, you're hoping for a big play to get there. Like he's not getting the same kind of volume as Cooper Kupp, but he clearly has, you're not going to get a 60-yard touchdown out of Cooper Kupp most likely. Whereas Rashid Shaheed, that's well within the range of outcomes. You can get those. He has the breakaway speed. You can get those really long touchdowns for Rashid Shaheed. Shaheed being 4,200 and getting lower ownership than Kupp, I actually like it. I actually think that I prefer Shaheed over Kupp, even though he won't get as many targets. And I will say, like, those targets, if we expect the game to be low scoring, those really do matter. Like if Kupp has 4 receptions for 30 yards and this is a low scoring game, that's 7 fantasy points. That might be enough at 5,200 that you need Cooper Kupp. So I don't feel that strongly that I prefer Rashid Shaheed. I prefer it from the perspective of I kind of think the Seahawks might try to get him more involved. They already have a little bit in the playoffs. Again, 3 carries in the playoffs. And that's with one of the games a complete blowout. If the game's closer, they might try harder to get the ball in Rashid Shaheed's hands. Again, missing Zach Charbonnet, who was, I would say, their most trusted running back. So they might try to get a little bit more unique, get the ball to Rashid Shaheed, either via carries or just like short passes. So I'm pretty intrigued by Rashid Shaheed. You also obviously get the kick return touchdown potential. But he's getting some ownership. So it's not like this is if you were getting like 8% ownership, I would be, let's play all the Rashid Shaheed. Like, I love that upside. He's getting enough that I don't feel that strongly that I need to be well above the field there. But at, 4,200, I think he's a strong flyer. I want to see if is the ownership similar elsewhere? Yeah, 21% RG. So it's pretty similar. Which I think is, fine. I guess the Sims are giving me under the field on Rashid Shaheed. I guess I don't know that I feel strongly enough to push him like to be above the field there. I think the field seems about right on Rashid Shaheed. Cooper Kupp, I'm also under the field right now. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel that strongly, but like I think that the field ownership looks about right. Oh crap, we got the bots in here. I feel like I shouldn't say that. I think sometimes I say that and then it attracts more. Like they're listening to me, and then they all join. What do you guys think? Rashid Shaheed or Cooper Kupp? I think everybody like kind of knows what they're getting. Like Rashid Shaheed is way more exciting than Cooper Kupp. You can get that giant play. Cooper Kupp, obviously, if he scores a touchdown, that's also big. Are you playing on? Does Underdog have a Super Bowl slate? I didn't even know that they have a Super Bowl slate. So no, I am not playing on Underdog. Maybe after the show, maybe I'll do a draft or two, but I have not done any drafts there. Would you play Darnold with a pass catcher who isn't named JSN? Yeah, absolutely. Like I think if he throws a touchdown to Barner or Kupp or Shaheed, like certainly he can get there without bringing along JSN. Even if JSN is the lead receiver, just given his price tag, you might want Darnold without JSN. So absolutely, I would. All right. Yes, Barner. We'll get there. Big fan of Barner. Oh, you're talking favorite late round running back in the big world was J.K. Dobbins. He's kind of moved up. I have not done enough to have a really strong opinion on the late round running backs. I don't know about anything about the rookies yet. But yeah, J.K. Dobbins has moved up too much. We'll get to Arroyo. We'll see if he's even active. I guess we're 40 minutes away from inactives there. I think most likely he's going to be out. If he does play, I don't know. I'm not that into it. I think he'll be a fine play. Like if he's under 5% owned, then yeah, I think he's a relatively strong. But I still think he's kind of the backup tight end play. Like he doesn't become like an awesome play. He becomes like you kind of need a touchdown most likely. He's still probably the third tight end, I would think. I have 0 Arroyo. All right. Yella just joined. What are your main takes so far? I don't know. We've only talked quarterbacks and running backs, and we've just started on the receivers. And I'm waffling on Cooper Kupp right now. I'm taking a break because I'm waffling on who do I actually prefer between Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed, because I think the Seahawks might try to get Rashid Shaheed more involved. But I think like the median outcome is that Cooper Kupp is going to be targeted more, and those targets are really valuable if you expect the game to be low scoring. And I do expect the game to be low scoring, so Cooper Kupp actually also getting more ownership, and he's more expensive. I'll probably have more Shaheed. I think I'm coming around to, I'll probably have more Shaheed than Cooper Kupp, but I think both I'm going to be not that far off from the field. I think it's ultimately where I'm landing on the Seahawks running backs. And then Bobo, as we saw, he clearly is more involved than Tariq Young. I think this all makes sense, getting a little bit of Bobo. Let's move on to Patriots receivers, and then other takes. I actually like George Holani a bit. I think he comes in under this 25%, which is part of the reason I like him, but just based on his route participation, target share last week, I think George Holani looks pretty good. Really like Ramondre Stevenson. Kenneth Walker, I'll be about even with the field. I actually think Drake May is a great captain if he comes in at 11%. Those are my main takes so far. All right, Patriots. Stephon Diggs is the nominal wide receiver 1 on the Patriots. He's 8,600, projected for 23% flex ownership, 4.5% captain ownership. I got to 37% flex, 5% captain of Diggs. Looking at, first of all, schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to receivers. It is a slightly below average matchup for receivers against the Seahawks. The one exception is actually a really strong matchup for right wide receivers. So receivers lining up out wide right. This has been the second best matchup over the past 3 weeks for receivers lining up out wide right. And if we look at who that is, that would be Mac Hollins, is who Fantasy Points has as the wide receiver who will be lining up out wide right the most. On Josh Jobe would be the cornerback on him the most. So for whatever that is worth, that has been in this small sample size has been a actually positive matchup against the Seahawks, and Mac Hollins is being projected as that guy in that spot. So little bump to Mac Hollins based on that info. But overall tough matchup for receivers against the Seahawks. The other thing that I noted that I wanted to look at for the receivers on the Patriots is looking at how much man coverage the Seahawks play. They're actually, kind of near the bottom of the league in terms of how much man coverage they play. They only play man coverage 17.6% of the time. That is the third least zone coverage. Sorry, third least man coverage of any defense. So they play a ton of zone coverage. So then you want to look at who does well on the Patriots against zone coverage. So I went to the receiving man versus zone in the Fantasy Points data suite. Who does well against zone coverage? Stephon Diggs, but he actually does. It's 2.55 yards per route run against zone coverage for Stephon Diggs. It's actually lower than his man coverage, but still very good. Doesn't really do anything for me. Hunter Henry, actually a big bump versus zone coverage, 1.96 yards per route run versus 1.24 against man. So it's theoretically a nice matchup for Hunter Henry against a team that plays a lot of zone. Mac Hollins, 1.87 versus 1.26 versus man. So another bump to Mac Hollins. So, looks good in terms of playing against zone coverage, looks good in terms of where he lines up. So some nice boosts for Mac Hollins. And then you've got Kayshon Boutte, 1.79 yards per route run against zone as opposed to 1.16 against man. So a little bump to Kayshon Boutte. Bump down for Pop Douglas, 4.07 yards per run against man. That's kind of insane. Just 1.38 against zone. So yeah, the top options here, we get bumps to Hunter Henry, Mac Hollins, and Kayshon Boutte. Bump down for Pop Douglas are kind of my biggest takeaways looking at the matchup, man versus zone, and what we expect from the Seahawks defense. So with all that said, and actually let's look at the usage in the playoffs so far. Wait, is this? Oh, yeah, no, we've got to go here. So in the playoffs so far, and we did have Mac Hollins just came back for his first game in the last one. So he's only played one so far, but overall Diggs leading the team with 16 targets in those 3 games on 79.4% route participation. This is why I call him a nominal wide receiver 1, because he really doesn't get wide receiver 1 usage. You only get about 5 targets per game for Diggs, and it's kind of all over the place. He will here and there see a big bump in usage, but generally he's like a 5 or 6 targets guy, whereas JSN is like double that. 79.4% route participation for Diggs. Then you've got Kayshon Boutte, 15 targets in those 3 games on 74.5% route participation. Looks great. And then a big bump down, and it's Pop Douglas does have 5 targets on 43.1% route participation. But looking at just the most recent game for the Patriots, because this is the only game that Mac Hollins has been active, we have 6 targets apiece for Boutte and Diggs. In terms of the route participation, it was actually Mac Hollins' third, 41.4% route participation. Pop Douglas, 31% route participation in that game, 27.6 for Kyle Williams. My expectation is that with 2 more weeks, and again, that was Mac Hollins' first game back. With 2 more weeks, I think that Mac Hollins sees a big bump in route participation here. No, not a sure thing. Maybe the Patriots have learned to trust Cal Williams more. Maybe they have liked what they've seen from Pop Douglas. But I think most likely we go back to Mac Hollins being kind of in that top tier in terms of route participation, and I'll show you why I think that. So this is the weekly route share report, and this is just for the regular season. But you can see Mac Hollins, before getting hurt, he was right up there with Diggs and Boutte in terms of route participation. Week 15, 75.9%, I guess a little bit lower than, actually he was higher than Diggs, lower than Boutte in terms of route participation there. Excuse me. 67% in week 16. He was right up there with Boutte and Diggs, and then got hurt, missed a few games, and then just came back in the conference championship. So I kind of expect Mac Hollins to, kind of bump back up into 60-70% route participation range that he had been in prior to his injury. Because again, he came back, now he's got 1 game under his belt, and then 2 more weeks of practice. You'd think he's full strength, and when the Patriots have been full strength, Mac Hollins has been their wide receiver 3. So I think that we see a bump there. And then on top of that, bumps in terms of the matchup for Hollins. So I think everything looks great for Mac Hollins. The one downside is he is getting a fair amount of ownership. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So we'll start with Diggs. Let's start with Diggs at the top. Projected for 22.9% flex ownership, 4.5% captain ownership. I'm actually well over the field there. 37% flex, 5% captain. That's fine. I'm well, I shouldn't say well over. I'm over the field at flex, about with the field at captain on Diggs. I think that's fine. Like he'll have his games where he suddenly sees a lot of targets. Diggs is okay. I'm not. Yeah, I don't feel like, I certainly don't want to have more than this of Diggs. I think that there's volatility there, but I think that's fine. Then beyond Diggs, we've got Kayshon Boutte has been kind of the nominal wide receiver 2, arguably wide receiver 1. 5,600 projected for 13% flex, 1% captain. I'll love Boutte. If he comes in at 14% total ownership, yeah, I want to be well above the field there. Currently, I'm getting to 20% flex, 2% captain. Boutte looks like a very strong play to me. And then Mac Hollins would be my wide receiver 3 on the Patriots. And at 3,600, I think that he's just a good value. You can argue about the ownership here and whether he's actually going to get back to his usage that we've seen recently. But I think he's a strong play at 3,600. 29% flex, 2% captain ownership. I'm only getting to 19% flex, 1% captain. I would like to have more of Mac Hollins. I'm going to move more of the usage to Mac Hollins because I think we're going to see a bump in terms of his usage. And then Pop Douglas, 3,200 projected for 5% total ownership. I got to 33% flex, 1% captain. I'm gonna get lower than that because again, this is not the best matchup for Pop Douglas. Now he's the type that even if he doesn't play a ton, he can put up a big score, and he's not getting much ownership here. So I don't think that this the amount that I'm getting is because of, well, let's take a look at the inputs actually. Not just gonna say it. We can actually take a look. Yeah, I mean, Run the Sims has him at a lower receiving market share than Mac Hollins. They actually have Mac Hollins up with Boutte, and then Diggs. That's interesting. Diggs well higher. So we're not getting more of Pop because of the usage. It's more because the low ownership on Pop Douglas, just leading to getting a lot of him in the Sims. I like Mac Hollins enough that I think I'm probably going to bump down my Diggs and move some of the Diggs usage to Kayshon Boutte and Mac Hollins because I think both are live too. I wouldn't be that surprised to see either of them get more targets than Diggs, which obviously a projection is not would this surprise you? It's the median outcome, but looking at, I kind of want to look at just the most recent set of games. So let's see. This is the full season for the Patriots. And again, I pulled this up primarily to look at inside the 20 and end zone targets. It's been 22 inside the 20 for Henry. Okay, so here's where Diggs is led the others significantly. 13 inside the 20 targets for Diggs to 5 for Mac Hollins and just 4 for Keishon Boutte. In terms of actual end zone targets, it's a little closer. 7 for Keishon Boutte, tied with Hunter Henry for the lead. 5 for Hollins, and then just 4 end zone targets for Diggs. So this is where actually Boutte and Hollins surpassed Diggs. That's interesting. So Diggs getting a lot inside the 20, the others actually in the end zone. But I want to look at just targets more generally. So let's see. We'll just go the most recent set of games. Oh, this will include games that Mac Hollins wasn't active. All right, so let's look at just games that Mac Hollins has been active. So we missed 17, 18, and then the first 2 games of the playoffs. So let's go week 10 on, and then take away, because I want to see if that target share, what it looks like in those games. So in the most recent 7 games with Mac Hollins active, hang on. It's been 44 targets for Diggs, 44 targets for Hollins, 38 targets for Henry, only 17 for Boutte. Okay, that surprised me a little bit. Boutte is the one who's well down here. But, I mean, Diggs and Hollins being having the same number of targets and also higher route participation for Hollins, I guess I am going to be lowering Diggs's rates a little bit and moving up Hollins in particular. So I'll end up getting more of Hollins and less of Diggs than I'm getting right now. And then outside of those 4, then you've got Kyle Williams, who's just not going to be super involved with Mac Hollins back, but he's 2,800. You could see a one-off play. You're kind of hoping for one splash play, I think, with Kyle Williams. Like he's not going to be super involved as the wide receiver 5, but not getting any ownership. I think he's a fine play just as a dart throw on what can be a low-scoring game. All right, I'm going to check in on chat. What's up, Dave? Who do you think should be captain? I mean, there's a lot of strong captain options. I actually don't hate Hollins as a kind of lower-owned contrarian captain play. Einstein says Douglas over Hollins. You think? See, I'm big. I'm much higher on Hollins, I think. What I saw was the Seahawks play a lot of cover 6, and May has not been good against that, though I think Boutte was okay on that. Interesting. We're seeing differences opinions of Hollins versus Douglas. I'm a Hollins guy. I just think he's going to see a big increase in usage. I'm sending him questioning whether Seattle maybe plays more man against this, but that hasn't been what they've done all year, so I'd be a little bit surprised if they play a ton. All right. Matt says that he thinks that it's because of Stevenson's pass protection. That would make sense. Pass protection leading to the Ramondre Stevenson usage. Okay, for ownership purpose, I think that's a totally reasonable take. Like if you just think that they're pretty close, but then Douglas going to be much lower owned, like I have no issue if you just want to play him more. Sorry, getting rid of a bot. It's just my expectation that we see a big increase for Mac Hollins in terms of usage. Boutte is your captain. I don't hate that at all. I think Boutte looks good. What's up, Marie? Getting rid of another bot. Chisholm punt. I don't think we see a ton of Chisholm here. Agreed that this is a very tough slate. I agree with that. Let's take a look at Chisholm. Did he play at all in the conference championship? We'll see if he's active, but conference championship did not run any routes. And I wouldn't. He's a wide receiver 6 at this point. Like I just don't really expect anything. Like I don't think they're drawing up trick plays for Chisholm or anything. So I don't see a ton of reason to get excited about it. I actually, let's see. Sean says Hollins could outscore Shaheed and Diggs and Cup. Agreed. Like I think that I like Hollins overall. I think I particularly like him as a contrarian captain option because like he could put up 15 fantasy points and be the captain that you need. Maybe leave a little bit of salary on the table if you do that, just to avoid the most dupes. But I think that he could be kind of a fun captain option. All right. Who are your favorite punts, cheapies? Holani, Mac Hollins, Henderson. Henderson kind of like, but I actually prefer Holani, but he's also getting a lot more ownership. All right. Let's see. Moving on to tight ends, right? We covered all the wide receivers. Yes, we did. All right, we're going to move on to tight ends. And again, we're 20 minutes away from finding out if Elijah Arroyo is active. I, again, don't actually care that much. Like, I care a little bit. Like, it'll affect how much interest I have in Eric Saubert, not Saubert, Saubert. But I don't care that much because I don't think that Elijah Arroyo suddenly becomes like this must-have play. But we will find out in 20 minutes. AJ Barner is going to be my favorite tight end on the Seahawks regardless. He is 4,800, projected for 26% flex and 4% captain ownership. I only got to 20% flex and 1% captain of Barner in my first run of the Sims. Looking at the matchup, it has not been a great one against the Patriots. It's been, the bottom 8 matchup for tight ends against the Patriots over the last 5 weeks. And then where's the other one? It's been a bottom 6 matchup for tight ends against the Seahawks over the last 5 weeks. Also, I think it looked a little bit better on the full season. On the full season schedule adjusted, it's actually been a pretty middling matchup against the Seahawks and an above average matchup for tight ends against the Patriots. Full season, it's actually not so bad for the tight ends. Much worse in the last 5 weeks. Ultimately, I like AJ Barner quite a bit. Again, he's just 4,800, projected for 30% total ownership. I guess I say quite a bit. I think the field has it about right. Like I think AJ Barner, he can get those tush-push opportunities, and then also has a decent role just as a pass catcher. So again, in the playoffs so far, we only have 2 games for the Seahawks, but AJ Barner, I guess only 3 targets in those 2 games, but 76.3% route participation. And then again, you look at the full season. Now I got to bring this back to full season. In terms of, all right, where is it? Inside the 20 targets. 15 inside the 20 targets for AJ Barner, second on the Seahawks after JSN. More inside the 20 targets than Cooper Kupp or Rashid Shaheed. This includes the full season for Rashid Shaheed. Just fairly likely to see a target in the end zone inside the 20. He also has 5 end zone targets. So I think AJ Barner, like decent usage on the season. His usage has been better recently. If Elijah Arroyo comes back, maybe it hurts him a little bit, but he's still like he was already pretty clearly the top tight end on the Seahawks even before Elijah Arroyo got hurt. Again, we can look at the route share report. Arroyo was seeing his route participation dwindle. AJ Barner has been running 60% plus routes the whole time. So I'm not that concerned about Elijah Arroyo's return. If he does return, as far as it concerns AJ Barner. So I think Barner looks like a good play. I think the field has it about right. 30% seems totally fine. Saubert, I'll be more concerned about him if we see Elijah Arroyo return. Lose a lot of interest there. Brady Russell, Nick Callerup. I mean, these are all just kind of the backup tight ends who you're hoping for a touchdown. None of them difficult to make a really strong argument for any of them. Looking at the 3 playoff games so far, no targets for any tight end other than AJ Barner. Eric Saubert has run 22% of routes, so he would be like the clear next best. But yeah, I think if Elijah Arroyo returns, maybe one of these would be inactive. I don't know. We'll see who's on the inactives list, but I'm not going to have a ton of interest in. I might not. I probably won't play any of Brady Russell or Nick Callerup. Actually, I'm seeing this. I'm getting to 2% of each right now. So in the first run of the Sims, I did get to 2% of each, but we'll see if Elijah Arroyo returns. Saubert, he's projected for 6% ownership. I got to 6%. That seems fine. Like he's like median outcome. He probably sees one target, maybe one target at 600 if he catches it. And if it's a touchdown, you probably want him. Even if it's not a touchdown, 2 fantasy points at 600 could be all you need. So I'm not going to make any strong case for any of these other tight ends because none of them are great plays. But I do like AJ Barner, even at 30% ownership. And then you have the Patriots. Hunter Henry is 7,000, projected for 21% flex and 2% captain ownership. I got to 25% flex and 3% captain, so I'm over the field on Hunter Henry, even at 7,000. And I think that makes sense. I think Hunter Henry is just an objectively strong play. Again, looking at zone coverage, Hunter Henry 1.96 yards per route run against zone, and the Seahawks have played zone the third most of any defense in the NFL this season. So I think Hunter Henry is a very strong play here. We also, just looking at the, this is all games, looking at the end zone targets for Hunter Henry. 7 end zone targets, tied with Kayshon Boutte for the lead. Also 22 inside the 20 targets for Hunter Henry on the season, leading the Patriots by far in terms of inside the 20 targets. So he looks great. And then Austin Hooper, you also see towards the top here, 5 inside the 20 targets, 3 end zone targets on the season for Austin Hooper. He is only 2,000, projected for 4% ownership. I got to 9%. He'd be my favorite outside of Barner and Henry. Like, I think Austin Hooper is like clearly the next best option. He's also the most expensive. But yeah, I got to 9% there. I think that makes sense. He is very live to just score a touchdown and do not much else, but that'll be probably enough at 2,000 if it is a low scoring slate. So I think that's all I really have to say about the tight ends. We'll see, again, inactives in 14 minutes. Then we can decide. We'll see if Elijah Arroyo plays, and we can adjust as necessary if that happens. We're just checking to make sure. What did Anthony Edwards just do? I'm getting notifications about Anthony Edwards. Well, I don't think we have any updates for this game, right? Not seeing any. So we can wait. All right. What else? Kickers and defenses. All right, so Seattle Seahawks projected for 17.4% flex, 1.5% captain ownership at 4,400. I'm above the field there, getting 25% flex, 2% captain. Yeah, I think they look like a strong play. I think this is very much a kickers and defenses slate. I think that I am going to be attacking the defenses quite a bit here. I think that's one of my favorite angles to play. The field is with me as far as the Seahawks go. They are going to be quite heavily owned. The Patriots, 4,000 projected for 16% flex, 1% captain ownership. I only got to 6%. I'm going to be flipping this now. Again, I concede. Sam Darnold has proved me wrong. He does not always fold under pressure. He might be very strong. He could be very good in this situation. I don't just want to play the Patriots because I expect Sam Darnold to fold under pressure. I think that he's proven that he's very capable of handling the pressure, but he does have some history of, in some games, things going wrong, and then he kind of falls apart And this is a really good defense. So regardless, I think because the Patriots have such a strong defense, they should be able to get some pressure on Sam Darnold. And even though he has been very good so far in the playoffs, I like the Patriots at low ownership. I think that they are one of my favorite plays on the slate. If they're only going to be, and this is actually higher ownership than I've seen elsewhere. So this is a lot of my opinion was formed looking at Patriots at like 12% ownership, and now they're moving up a little bit. That makes me slightly less excited about it, but still excited enough because they are 4,000. I think this is very, very high potential of this being a game that is a defensive battle where the offenses don't do a ton. And if you just get a touchdown out of a defense, like they are pretty likely to be optimal in that scenario. I think both these defenses pretty likely to get a fair amount of pressure on the quarterbacks. Yeah, he might be as Nicky Diamonds says, Sam Darnold might be seeing ghosts in this game. Now, again, that is not a prediction. I'm not saying that that is very likely to happen, but it has happened at times in the past. Again, as a Vikings fan, I remember it all too well. AYG says it's going to play out exactly like Vegas says, and Darnold is going to be MVP, and it's going to be so obvious in hindsight. Yeah, that could happen. And if that happens, we're going to see like a huge dupe train, I think, most likely. So it's not my favorite scenario to play for, but it's not an unlikely scenario that he just plays really well. Like Seattle has the better defense, even if the Patriots do have a very strong defense. I do think Seattle's defense is better. I think Sam Darnold has been pretty good in the playoffs. So like I'm not saying that it's the likeliest scenario that the Patriots are able to get to him and pressure him a ton and get a defensive touchdown. But I also don't think that it is extremely unlikely. The ghost thing, yeah, I mean the seeing ghost thing is very. I think it's older than 2 years ago. I thought it was like 5 years ago. The seeing ghosts, the folding under pressure in games that mattered was last year with the Vikings. He was terrible at the end of the season after being in the MVP conversation. But again, I think that this year he has kind of put those rumors to bed. Like he's been very good this year. So I'm not saying that I love the Patriots because I expect him to fold under pressure. That is not my expectation. But it is because the field isn't really playing it for that scenario. Like the field is playing. The Patriots are 4,000. They're not getting a ton of ownership. So because they are low price, not getting a ton of ownership, and football is just kind of a chaotic game where things happen that are unexpected all the time, and a lot of the time the defense benefits from that. So I usually like to lean into it when defenses are going low owned, and there are like some quarterbacks where I'm less inclined to do that, like Patrick Mahomes, where it's just like it would be kind of surprising to me to see the defense do great here. Patrick Mahomes maybe not he threw a lot of interceptions this year, but there are times where quarterbacks are like so good that I'm like tough to really want to play a defense against them. I do not put Sam Darnold into that category where it's just like he's too good, like he'll throw the ball away. Aaron Rodgers is actually a good example of that, where it's just like I don't really want to play defenses against Aaron Rodgers. Sam Darnold, I think I still think it's possible that he could get flustered, and the defense does great here. So I really like the defenses. I'm going to be leaning into the Patriots defense well over the field there, probably try to get to the 30 to 40% range. And it's not just because I'm a hater and a Vikings fan who's mad at Sam Darnold. It's just because I think that they're too low owned for a defense against a quarterback who's been good, but I don't think that he's like unflappable. So at this ownership and this price tag, I will lean into the chaos of football and play a good amount of both defenses here because I think they're both strong options, can get pressure on the quarterbacks. I also do think the kickers are fairly strong. Now, actually, I'm not getting to a ton. Jason Myers, 5,400. Andy Borregales, 5,000. Myers projected for 27 and 1 at captain. I got to 10% total exposure to Jason Myers. Andy Borregales, 23% flex and 1% captain. I got to 5%. I think ultimately I'm going to be playing for a lower scoring game. So I'll probably end up getting certainly more than I'm getting right now. Like this I don't love. But I'll probably still actually end up under the field on the kickers as I lean more into the defenses. But I think I want at least double digit probably of both kickers. All right, let me check in on chat. All right. Of course I want Darnold back. You kidding me? Did you watch the Vikings this year? Yeah, I would take Darnold back in a heartbeat. Everyone has a bad day. I mean, yeah, exactly. That's like I'm not saying this as a Sam Darnold. I think he's probably going to be good. He's probably going to be just fine. But Neil, what's on the Super Bowl member? I don't think I understand that question. Menu. I don't know. I'm going to a friend's house. I think actually they're making tacos. I think it's a taco bar. All right. Yes, tacos. Tacos is going to be the main thing. Also, this Loafin, it says Vrabel and his coaching abilities shouldn't be overlooked against Darnold. I mean, that's also part of it. It's just like I trust these coaching staffs, and I don't know. I think they're gonna could cause some issues. I also love some buffalo dip. All right. Now, what else? I'll continue to make my lineups. We've got 6 minutes until inactives come out. At that point, we'll know if Elijah Arroyo is active. If he is, then Run the Sims will add him. I don't think they currently have him in the player pool. I think Adam was adamant that he thinks that he's going to be out and he's going to wait, and I'll just add him if he ends up being in. That will obviously change some things. But I'm going to start adjusting lineups now. So I'm going to go, and again, Run the Sims free right now for the Super Bowl if you want to check it out. So you can try this as well. But I am going to play for a lower scoring game. So I'm just going to slightly move down the points scored, the pace for both teams. Going to move up the sack rate for both teams. Just very slightly for the Seahawks, and then actually more significantly for the Patriots. I'm going to move some of Kenneth Walker's usage to George Holani, particularly the receiving work. So I'm going to click Smart Adjust. And what this is going to do is, as I adjust the receiving market share, it will also adjust the receiving touchdown market share. So I'm going to bring both to 10% for Kenneth Walker and George Holani. And then rushing market share. I'll also move it slightly in favor of Holani. So I'm going to move Walker down to 68 and Holani up to 15. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. I'm slightly tempted by Cam Akers, but I'm not going to do it. I don't think I'm going to do it. He's 1,400. Didn't play at all the last game. If he's active, again, I'll be like sort of slightly almost tempted, but probably don't need to do it. He's probably just not going to play. Kupp and Shaheed. What can I do there? I don't really want to move away from JSN. I was already not getting to a ton. Maybe I'll just leave them as is for now for this run. Rashid is getting a 4% rushing market share already. All right, and then on the Patriots side, I was already getting a fair amount of Henderson and Stevenson. I probably get more Stevenson now that I moved off some of the Kenneth Walker usage. I would think that now Stevenson will look better because Walker is going to look a little bit worse. Drake May. I do like Drake May a bit. I want to get to more of him at captain. Oh, I do want to move away from some of my stuff. I'm going to move some of Stephon Diggs' usage to the other Patriots receivers. So I'm going to smart adjust, move Diggs down to just 20% receiving market share. Kayshon Boutte up to 14%. Mac Hollins up to 14%. I think I have too much now, yeah. And then we will move Pop Douglas down slightly. I think that works. All right, I'm going to try that. Run the sims again and see what happens. 2 minutes until inactives. Yeah, Alex says a healthy Milton Williams scares me for a boom bust guy like Walker. Exactly. May over 6.5 carries. I don't hate that. What else? Sam Darnold 0-4 versus the Patriots in his career. That's obviously like we don't really care about that this year, but a fun and interesting stat. Will you be building lineups in the event this game hits the over? I mean, maybe I'll build a second set of sims. Haven't really thought about that, but I could do a couple different. Because I think I am actually playing more lineups, so you can only build up to 300 within the Shady Portfolio Optimizer. So I could do a set of, I think I'm playing 365 is how many I've entered. Rance says Jets is purgatory, so I don't know if those games count. That's fair. Slimbo Boogie says Darnold captain paired with JSN. Good idea. They're going to pass all game. If I have Darnold captain, I think I'd prefer to have multiple pass catchers just for what it's worth. Just because, again, if he's passing to JSN all game, because JSN will outscore him, he'll get a point per reception. He gets more for every yard, every touchdown, etc. Like if he's just too hyper focused on JSN's probably going to be the optimal captain instead of Darnold. So if I have Darnold captain and I want JSN in the flex, I would probably have another receiver from the Seahawks in the flex as well. All right. Probably said Arroyo out. Who said that? I guess it is about time now. All right. Patriots edge Harold Landry and linebacker Robert Spillane are active. Oh, nice. Congrats to Gordon. A friend of mine just got engaged. All right, Elijah Arroyo. Do we have anything on? We have bots. Do you crunch for each contest or one contest for all? I just do one. It's smarter to do individual for different contests, but yeah, I always just do one. Usually, I mean, almost all the contests I play are super large field. I actually am playing some smaller field on this one where it would make a lot of sense to individualize to the different contests. Patriots and actives. Where are? Oh, we okay. I don't know who this guy is. Joseph Pasteris. Says Robbie Oots is inactive. I don't think we have it official yet, right? I appreciate you. DVT says, big fan, you know, taking a break this last half of the season, but of course, got to get some action down for the Super Bowl. Love that. What are some key takeaways you've drawn so far? You mean for this game? I'm in on the defenses. On Matt Collins, like I think it could be chalky. I'm not expecting it to be like crazy high chalky though. I like George Holani. I think just based on his usage in that last game, I think he could be pretty involved in the passing game again. Oh, Chisholm is out. I didn't see that. Yeah, Efton Chisholm is out, so you don't have to worry about that. We're not playing Efton Chisholm. Yeah, where are the Seahawks inactives? They should be out. Like it's 5:30 lock, right? Zenegas says, "Don't sleep on Jake Bobo." I mean, he's run like 17% of routes. He's gotten some looks. He scored a touchdown, right? In the playoffs, he scored a touchdown. Am I remembering that right? Yeah, I think he is, and I think he's fairly talented. Not going to play a ton, but we just got. I had it for a second. Seahawks inactives. Robbie Oots, Nick Callerup. So yeah, the Pasteris guy had it right. So I can remember that for next time. I'm not seeing Elijah Arroyo on the inactives list. Oh, Adam said it. Is Adam our source now, though? Do we trust what Adam says? I mean, are we sure he's not on the practice squad? Didn't need to be called up? Is Adam becoming like an NFL inside source now? That would be hilarious. All right. So I guess we'll wait a minute. Make sure we get Elijah Arroyo into the Sims before I run them again. But we can take a look at what this one looks like. Oh, somebody wanted me to look at FanDuel also. I guess I'll do that real quick. Yeah, Arroyo active. Yep, Arroyo is. I wouldn't say he's for sure playing, but he's active at least, which is interesting. All right, so in this latest run of The Sims, what do I have? So I adjusted for a lower scoring game and more pressure by the defenses. Yeah, now I'm getting to 45% flex and 26% captain Drake May. 42 and 4 of Sam Darnold. That's interesting. I got more of the quarterbacks than I got last time. Probably because I lowered Kenneth Walker stuff. So then I'll get less of him and more to the other expensive guys. At running back, yeah, much lower Kenneth Walker after lowering some of his usage. Now at 37 and 8 at captain. Maybe a little lower than I want to be on Kenneth Walker. I probably want more than this. I'm now up to 34 and 2% of George Holani. So taking a stand there above weight, which I like. 48 and 11. So I got more of Stevenson. So in general, it did work kind of how I wanted it to, where I got less of Kenneth Walker and more of the other expensive pieces. But maybe overdid it slightly. And then I'm still over the field on Trevion Henderson. So generally, I do like my exposures better now. At wide receiver, I'm now down to just 20% Diggs with none at captain after I moved some of his exposure to Hollins and Boutte, which generally, yeah, moved in the direction I would like. Getting a lot of JSN now, 36% captain, 27% flex of JSN. I don't hate that. I'm right with the field on Mac Hollins. I'm well over the field on Keyshawn Boutte. I love that I'm over the field on Boutte. Don't know if I think I might want to be over the field on Hollins, though. I am at 13 and 1 of Cooper Kupp, 14 and 0 of Rashid Shaheed. Still getting to 16 and 1 of Pop Douglas, 6% Kyle Williams, 2% Jake Bobo. None of Tariq Young. This all looks mostly fine. I'm going to have to redo everything now that we have inactives being different than expected. Oh, AJ Barner. Okay, so Adam already got AJ. Nice job, Adam. Adam got AJ Barner in there. I didn't realize that he was even in the player pool, but he was in there for this set. Oh, sorry, not AJ Barner. I'm thinking of Elijah Arroyo. My mind is broken, apparently. AJ Barner I got to 22% flex. I almost complimented Adam. Man, totally uncalled for. But AJ Barner, 22%. I think AJ Barner is a strong play Wouldn't mind getting more there. I guess I kind of like all of the, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I want a little bit more of all of AJ Barner and Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed. So I might need to increase the pass rate for the Seahawks a little bit, maybe, or like the total points scored or something. Getting to 29%, 30% of Hunter Henry with 5% of a captain. So over the field there looks good. So just 3% Austin Hooper. Now I'm under the field here where I was over before. That's not ideal. 5% Westover, 3% Sauber. Now Nick Collerup is inactive, so we'll get rid of him, add Elijah Arroyo back in. Defenses, yeah, this is more in line with what I think I would like. 26% Patriots plus 0.3 a captain. 23% Seahawks. So over the field on both. We're at 8 and 4. I'll have to bring up the kickers, I think, a little bit. All right, I'm going to look at... Wait, who is Joshua talking about? Joshua loaded up on Velus Jones. Yeah, that's a good call. He was inactive last week, and now he's active. Yeah, that is... I mean, he's... Like, he was a wide receiver previously. Is he just a running back now? I didn't like I know that he got carries in like, but the carries that he got, the only carries that he's gotten, as far as I know, on the season was against the 49ers when they were up like 35 points. So I don't think that Velus Jones is, I think it's still more likely that it's going to be George Holani as the running back too. But it is a good note that like the fact that they made him active, there's a possibility they didn't like what they saw from George Holani last week. I still think I'm more inclined to stick with George Holani just based on his route participation last week. Yep, Arroyo's active, Velus Jones is active, so we have a different situation than last week. I still don't think I'm going to play a ton of Arroyo. To me, he's still just a classic backup tight end. Like, I think people are treating him like from what I've heard, I think some people are going to be overexcited to play Elijah Arroyo, and I just want to remind people, this is what the route participation looked like prior to the injury. It went from 42%, like he had been early in the season running a fair amount, and then after their bye, it was 42%, 46%, 31, 19, 23, 12. So like he's kind of the classic backup tight end. You're hoping for one play, one splash play, a touchdown or 30-yard catch or something, but like he's cheap enough that like he's fine, but it's going to be very dependent on ownership. Yeah, this is fair. AFC Angelo says Holani is definitely the RB2, but Jones active makes me somewhat think that they could have a gadget drawn up for Velus. He's a speed guy on the outside when we can get there. It could also impact Rashid Shaheed is the other thing. Like instead of Rashid Shaheed getting one of those end-around carries, that could be Velus Jones instead. Velus Jones in the Kadarius Toney Super Bowl role. Was it Kadarius Toney who had the big Super Bowl? There was also a Mecole Hardman scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Oh, Akers did play 1% of snaps. Okay, I didn't realize that. So maybe Velus Jones takes the Akers snap. Oh, it might have been a kneel down. Yeah. All right, let me see. I'll take a look at FanDuel real quick, and then I will run a new set of sims. And again, I'll be leaving, I probably got 20 minutes left in the show. I'll run the sims one or two more times before I got to get out of here. All right, at MVP, interesting. So Drake May is getting 23%. He is the highest owned MVP on FanDuel, then JSN, then Kenneth Walker, then Sam. So looking at these MVP ownership numbers, I think Drake May and JSN are totally fine. Kenneth Walker a little bit too close to the other two for me. Like I think he is cheaper, but it looks like probably more than I would like. Stevenson does look great to me at 8.5% projected MVP ownership. I think that's a strong play. And then again, I think you can go to, Hunter Henry at 1.6% looks like a strong MVP play on FanDuel. AJ Barner's okay. I think Hunter Henry's better. But then I like Kayshon Boutte at 1%. That's a strong play to me. I actually think the defenses are probably strong MVP plays. Patriots at 0.5%. Seahawks at 1.2%. Those are relatively strong plays. Hollins at 0.7%. So yeah, I do think I'd be pretty inclined to get away from the chalk to some extent on FanDuel. But yeah, I think my favorites would be Henry, Boutte, Hollins, Stevenson, Seahawks, Patriots. I think those are among my favorites at MVP. And then I still would have I'd probably set my cap at like 20%. I'd still probably have 20% of May, 20% of JSN. I'd be probably less than this of Kenneth Walker. Probably less than this of Darnold, but maybe not by that much. Diggs is fine at 4.6%. But I'd be more inclined to play the like pretty contrarian players. And then in the flex, again, Stevenson at 10,400, getting 33.5%. I think that's good. I guess Kenneth Walker's not that much more expensive, so he actually looks like a really strong flex play to me at 35%. JSN more expensive, getting a little bit less ownership. AJ Barner at 29% seems pretty good. Yeah, I don't have a real issue with this ownership number for Hollins. I do like Holani again on FanDuel at 15.4% ownership at 4,400. Again, Patriots 15% looks good to me. Trevion Henderson, he's 8,200 though. Like, that's tougher. He could always break off like a 50-yard rush or reception and suddenly it might be okay, but yeah, I think 5.5% is probably fine. It's probably about where it should be. But yeah, Hunter Henry looks great. 20% projected ownership at 7,600. Yeah, give me all the Hunter Henry on FanDuel. Boutte looks okay. Looks pretty good at 20%. Seahawks 21% seems fine also. But yeah, Hunter Henry really stands out there. Let me refresh this. Do you think, does Adam remember that the Super Bowl is happening today? I guess he was the one who already, Elijah Arroyo is in there but does not have any usage currently. But that allows me to at least put that in there if I want to. Oh, Collar Op's still getting some usage, so we got to give it a minute. Joshua says, I think Bobo going to be overplayed because he scored in the NFC Championship. That could be true. It's really tough to project. I think like Super Bowl ownership projections is probably tougher than most of the season, because most of the season it's like mostly people using sims and projections, and in the Super Bowl you probably get a lot more casuals, and difficult to know what casuals are going to do. Tony and Sky Moore both scored. Steven, showing his homerism, says plus 7,500 for Tonga to score a touchdown for the Pats. Thanks, Pete. Appreciate you. Sean says, if Stevenson makes the optimal, shoot me in the head. I won't. I won't do that. All right. He's updating it right now per Run the Sims Discord. Okay, good. Exumian likes Arroyo. Bobo, such a meme-ass character too. I mean, with a name like that, like, yeah, kind of. He had a good rookie year. I think people are pretty excited about Bobo, and then hasn't really progressed since then. Yeah, I'm curious to see what Run the Sims does with Arroyo. Do you give him more usage than Collar Up? Probably. You got to give him more than Collar Up. Do you just get rid of Brady Russell? Just give all of this to Arroyo? Split Arroyo and Saubert? What was Saubert doing during this? Saubert wasn't even playing. Interesting. So he really didn't start until Arroyo went down. I didn't realize that. Callerup was playing a little bit. And then Brady Russell not even showing up here. Well, I'll see what Adam does, and then I'll disagree with it. Maybe. Yeah, when casuals are down there looking for a cheap play, they'll remember that Bobo just scored in an Eshel game. True. Excuse me. All right. Once this updates, I'm going to run a new set. Start over again. I did see Adam wore his Flaniverse hat on his latest stream, which, I mean, even Adam looks better in a Flaniverse hat. Nice hats. All right, where are we at? Okay, Arroyo not updated yet. Yeah, I might just do this myself. I kind of want to see what they do though, so I don't. I'm gonna give them a minute to update. Is everybody ready to celebrate Travis Mangone Day? Has, I would guess, the best lineup in the DraftKings Best Ball Millie Maker in the Super Bowl. Just a fantastic lineup. Corain also has a nice lineup there. Any of you have strong playoff best ball lineups in the final? My best is in a like round 2 thing where it's like everybody has pretty good lineups, or a lot of the lineups are going to be pretty good. I did not get any great lineups to the finals in regular playoff best ball, which is very, very disappointing because I had some decent ones, but didn't look great. But good luck to Travis Mangone. Corain, come on. He's already got his. Stephanie says, I got 2 and both dead. I got 1 into the gauntlet final. It has only JSN left, which at least JSN is low owned. So last year was 2 bye teams. I got a full 5-man team to the final. I was very excited about it. I thought I'm very live to like place really well in the gauntlet. And I got beat by a bunch of 3-man teams because you really needed Xavier Worthy, I think it was, and I didn't have Xavier Worthy. So I just got crushed by all the 3-man Xavier Worthy teams. It was super disappointing. All right, Arroyo. Still not showing anything for usage or ownership. Maybe I need to reset. If anybody's in the Run the Sims Discord, could you harass Adam for me, please? Everybody just tell him hurry the fuck up. Neil needs to run the Sims again. I think that would help. Projections updated again, Steve L says. Okay. Ooh, Limehouse with the EV leader. Oh, yeah. I think we talked about this on Twitter, right? Yeah, you have. Yeah, that's exciting. It's exciting. It's also like so much pressure on you. I'm sorry. Because now, like, if you don't reach your EV, you're going to be disappointed. That's a good one. More like Walk the Sims. Exactly. Like, Adam, if you're listening, future reference, like, you know, this was one of those things that was kind of a foreseeable event. Like, there was also always some chance that Elijah Arroyo was going to be in today. And, like, knowing that, maybe, like, ahead of time, you make an alternative projection so that you can just, like, really quickly update it once the news comes out. I'm just saying, just making a small suggestion here. You're going to be in a chicken wing coma. That's good luck to you, though. That's very exciting to have a team that's well in the mix. I do not have any of those. It's cool that on Underdog you can see the teams. Like, you know that your team is the top team by EV. DraftKings will just never know. I doubt anybody's running the Sims. Maybe they will as soon as the teams are out. This is probably true. Steve L says Adam's looking at NBA stuff. Which, there's no NBA tonight, right? All the NBA games are done. Yes, Arroyo is in. We're currently waiting for the projections to update for Arroyo being in. Dan, I see something from you from 421. Appreciate you. I do not see anything since 421, but yes, I still see. Oh, he said he has to run. All right, sorry, I'm answering a DM. So let me type it in because apparently it's not here anymore. Okay, good. Okay, ship having an issue syncing the projections. I really was hoping that Arroyo would just not be in and we could be done. He did add him in there, so I could now just do it myself. Just do, project it myself. Because I am supposed to be leaving in like 15 minutes or sooner, but is the combinatorial ownership and massive amount of dupes enough to max one Hollins and Holani? I think Cody said 72% of the top 128 in the top 1% of both were duped on average 42.8 times. Maybe depends how many lineups you're running. Like if you're running 20 lineups, I think that's a reasonable max one. I mean, you could do it. I'm not going to set a max one like that. Just because, I don't know. I think the Sims should take care of that for you. If you're using Sims, like they will try to limit your dupes or like give you an EV based on the number of dupes expected. If you're using an optimizer and you're only playing 20 lineups, I think that's a fine one. I won't be setting that max because again, I think both are just really great plays. And I'm not sure. Again, I think ownership projections are tougher on the Super Bowl slate than most slates. So I don't want to like love the plays and then think, oh, they're going to be over-owned, and then the cards slip over and they're lesser owned than expected, and regret that. So, but yeah, I think that's, a good thought, just trying to limit the high combinatorial ownership combos. Is Arroyo only viable in a 150 max? I'm playing 20 and I wasn't planning on playing any. I wouldn't say he's only viable in a 150 max. Also, like 150, it's more about the size of the number of entries in the contest than the number of entries you're allowed to play in the contest. So, like in a 20 max where there are 200,000 entries, I don't know if there are anything like that, but I wouldn't care about the 150 versus 20 max there. But what would be the contest size field? I probably wouldn't play Arroyo in anything that's 1,000 entries or fewer. But I think anything higher than that, entries in the contest, he's viable. But like just as a value play, I'm not expecting to see a ton of usage today, but I think he's viable in like mid-size contests. Okay, I'm going to refresh. Okay, we do. Looks like Adam at least did something here, so we do have Arroyo getting some market share now. So I think that it worked now. So I'm going to try running the Sims again. Good. All right, I'll run them. And then I'll run them again after making some adjustments. Oh, ownership's going to be a minute. Shoot, I didn't even notice that the ownership wasn't updated. All right. I'm going to tell my wife I'm running a little late. Relax, Neil. Don't crash out. Calmer than you are, dude. Calmer than you are. I have not seen The Big Lebowski in like 20 years, probably. Maybe longer. That would take me back to college days. Have I seen it since college? I probably have. The spin RTS logo is a bane of my existence. At least it means, it's working. Please do like the video if you haven't already done so. I'll pull up. Yes, I'm getting those messages. Appreciate you. Dan. It was a fun movie. We also, Saul just did The Usual Suspects meme in the Flannelverse Discord, which that's another movie I almost certainly haven't seen since college. I used to call it my favorite movie. I don't know that I would still call it my favorite movie. I haven't seen it in over 20 years. Best play to play under 3,000 on DraftKings, George Holani. All right, we're almost there. Diversifying payouts. Appreciate you, Sean, as always. Neil, have loved the content. You'll go far, bro. Could, on your last run, pick your favorite out of the top 20. Hit the like only play. Yes, I can. Spencer asks, any golf sweats? I don't think I have any. That's a good question. I have not looked since this morning, but I doubt it because I don't think that I've had any. Sometimes on Sunday, like things can flip where some, the leader flips. No, doesn't look like I have any true golf sweats. No. Do you have any, Spencer? Anybody else have a golf sweat? I did play golf this week. All right, the payouts are taking longer than usual. Okay, there we go. Let's take a look. All right, so I'm getting 48 and 7 of Drake May, 47 and 2 of Sam Darnold. I like more May captain. Now I'm getting, and this is using the run the Sims inputs. Now I'm getting to 43 and 31 of Kenneth Walker, 35 and 7 of Ramondre, 10% Trevion, 3% Olani. So I'll be making some adjustments there. Wide receiver again, still getting over the field on JSN at captain, under at flex, 38 and 8 of Stephon Diggs, 14% Matt Collins. Again, I'll be adjusting these. Oh, now I'm getting 26 and 3 of Cooper Kupp, so I'm over the field there. 19 and 3 of Rashid Shaheed, 30 and 3 of Keyshawn Boutte. Love to see that. 18 of Pop Douglas, 3 of Kyle Williams, 1 each of Bobo and Tariq Young. Now I'm getting to 19% Elijah Roy. Okay, they only gave him 1% projected ownership. At 1%, I guess I think it'd be a strong play at 1% ownership. I'm gonna have to refresh and see if they have adjusted that. Now up to 17% projected ownership on Austin Hooper, and I'm only getting 5%. 32 and 2 of Barner. I'm getting to 14 and 1. 28 and 2 projected for Hunter Henry. I'm at 19 and 2. Huh. I'd like to adjust that. I think Henry looks like a strong play. These are way different than what I was getting earlier. That's interesting. Getting to 11 and 1 of the Patriots now. Again, I'll bump that up. Now I'm at, 43% of the Seahawks. Oh, look, now they're projected for lower ownership than the Patriots. So things have changed in the projected ownership. And now I'm at 18% Myers, 9% Borregale. So, some big differences in what I'm getting now versus what I was getting earlier. So let's see. They have Elijah Roy at 1%, Saubert at 1%. All right, let me reset, refresh one last time. I'm going to make adjustments now. Okay, Arroyo still at 1%. All right. So again, I'm going to play for a lower scoring game. Although I did like all the secondary pass catchers on the Seahawks. So maybe I'll just move up the defenses. And then, no, I'm going to move this down. 24, 20, 57, 55. I'm going to move the rush rate lower because I like the pass catchers. And then going to move some of Kenneth Walker's work to George Holani. Okay. Do I want any Velus Jones? Probably not. I'm going to move off some of this Elijah Arroyo. Bring it up to Shaheed. I'm just gonna skip Tariq. I'm tempted to skip Tariq Young. I'm gonna skip Brady Russell. Bring Saubert down to 1%. All right, we'll do that. Patriots. I think I'll get more Drake May because I moved off some of the Kenneth Walker. I am also going to give Ramondre some more of this work. So I'm going to move Ramondre up to 58% rushing. I should have shoot. Smart adjust that first. And Trevion Henderson down to 16%. Again, I'm going to move Diggs lower. Move up. Oops. Hollins. And Keyshawn Boutte. Pop Douglas down to 7%. Kyle Williams down to 4%. So I'm a little bit high on receiving touchdown overall. So let's move Westover down to 1% there. There we go. And then Borregales, I want to move up to 8 points. All right, we'll leave it there. Hell no to golf sweats. What's the most salary left on the table we've seen? Like 11,000. It was like a big time kickers and defenses slate. All right, we ran the Sims. Okay. All right, so looking through my top 20 lineups, I'll tell you what I like here, Sean. Actually, let me look at see if I need to run the Sims one more time first. All right, so quarterback. All right, I'm at 15% May captain. All right, and 47% flex, 41 and 6 of Darnold captain. That seems fine. I'm over the field on Darnold, interestingly. Wait, flex ownership. Oh, now they have Drake May at 26%. Okay, so this is the big difference. Is Drake May was at 12% projected captain ownership earlier. Now it's at 26%. So I think I don't know what happened where everything changed pretty dramatically from the beginning of the show. Running back, we've got 36 and 12 for Stevenson, 36 and 15 for Kenneth Walker. I'm now up to 19 and 1 for George Holani. Now they've got him at 33 and 1. That I'd be pretty surprised if Holani comes in that high. Now I'm at 11%. Trevion Henderson. I guess if Holani does come in at 34% ownership, I would want to be under the field. Wide receiver, we're at 37 and 20 of JSN. Okay, that looks good. 23 and 2 of Matt Collins. Now Matt Collins at 44 and 2. Interesting. Does Adam think like I'm an influencer? Like, did he like every play that Neil loved, he just moved up, like tripled the ownership? He's like, oh yeah, everybody's listening to Neil and like everybody's. Does he think that I'm like influencing the market? I think that's what happened. Diggs, I'm now at 24 and 5 because I'm not, to be clear, I'm not an influencer. I do not move the market. I promise you. Rashid Shaheed, 22 and 3. Keyshawn Boutte. Okay, here's one. That's still not getting a ton of ownership, that I think is a very strong play. I'm getting to 21-4. Cooper Kupp, I'm at 21-3. Pop Douglas 10, which if he comes in at 2% ownership, I would want some Pop Douglas. I'm at 4% Kyle Williams, 3% Jake Bobo, 1.5% Tariq Young. Hunter Henry, I'm now at 22-4. AJ Barner 20-3. Austin Hooper 9. Elijah Arroyo 6. Jack Westover 2. Eric Saubert 2. Defense is okay. This is good. I'm higher than I was before. Still, I'm getting to 21-2.5 of the Seahawks, 20-2.5 of the Patriots. So I'm at least over the field there. And then kickers, I'm now at 21-19. All right, so I'm going to run the Sims one more time, and then I'll tell you what I like, Sean. All right, so let's see. So I would be shocked if George Holani comes in this high owned. So I'm going to move him a little lower. Move Kupp a little higher, I think. Jake Bobo a little higher. Elijah Arroyo a little higher. Velas probably gets, maybe not. Maybe he doesn't get much. Oh, Sam Darnold will be higher. Okay. Maybe Barner gets a little bit lower now with Elijah Arroyo back in. Maybe I'm wish casting. I think I want even more of the defenses. What else? Matt Collins probably not going to get 44% ownership. All right. I kind of want to give Hunter Henry more usage. So maybe I'll bring, let's see, Kyle Williams down to 3%. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. And then Hunter Henry up to 17%. Okay. We're going to call it good. All right, I'm going to try this. Oh, this is why it ran so, okay. That's why it was different, I think, because I didn't set this up right. Shoot, does that change the ownership? I don't know. All right, we'll see. Oh, May is back to, okay, yeah. Will you have any lineups that don't have JSN and Walker in them? You talking to me? Because I definitely will. Yeah, I think I screwed that up by running the Sims without adjusting. I forget that when you refresh, you have to adjust your settings every time. So we'll see if I adjusted enough. But I don't think it changed. I don't know if they if they change the ownership and stuff. Here's the guy. I hope you're ready, Shady, to do your diversification calculations. For people who don't know, Shady does those in his head. You send it to him in his head. He's just doing the math for you. Which lineups work with other lineups really real quick. Good luck to you also, Shady. I actually don't know if you have any best ball sweats. I don't think I've seen any, but good luck if you do. I know Corain has a sweat using the sidekick. All right, see right now it says diversifying payouts. Right now, Shady is running the numbers in his head for us. And he's doing it a little tipsy. Nice. That's how you want to do your diversification. Oh yeah, and for those who don't know, the Shady Portfolio I just learned this yesterday. The Shady Portfolio Diversifier also free for the Super Bowl. I did not realize that was going to be the case until I heard it on Lowell's. I think it was Lowell's. Mac thinks that, Einstein thinks that Mac is going to get steamed. Could be. Yeah, I'm not sure how many people watched the last game and they're like, he was not a full-time player in the last game. I don't think that he's a player that people get super excited about, but I could be wrong about that. Name like that, guy walking in barefoot. I guess people, he's made himself known. Kind of a character. All right, diversifying the payouts. Darren asks, who do we like on FanDuel? I did, I don't know, half an hour ago or so, I did a brief take a look at the Roto Grinders ownership, and I talked about it some. I don't remember all of it, but I know that I liked Hunter Henry quite a bit on FanDuel. All right. Quarterback. Okay, I'm now getting 17% Maya captain. Now I'm wondering, do I need to refresh everything? Okay, whatever. I'll probably just leave it as is. 17% May captain. I am a fair amount of Darnold. I might cut back on some of that Darnold because I don't want to keep rerunning it. Stevenson, 50 and 13. Walker, I'm way under on Walker now. Might need to boost that up. 17 and 1 of Holani. I would like more of Holani. Only 5% Trevion. So this is, it adjusted things so much that now I'm not getting exactly how I want it, but let's take a look. Hollins, I'm at 18 and 4. Diggs, 19% total. Shaheed, 31 and 3. Interesting. Boutte, I'm now at 42 and 4. Cooper Kupp, 19 and 1. Tight end. Hunter Henry, 24 and 5. AJ Barner, 12 and 2. Elijah Arroyo, 9%. Hooper, 7%. Defenses, I am well over the field now. That's cool. Kickers, 12 and 6. All right, so people are telling me that the ownership is way different if I refresh it now. All right, Sean, I'm going to read off a favorite lineup right now, and then I might just refresh everything because I was much closer to where I wanted to be before. And now I am further from where I'd like to be. So let's see. Top lineup is Kenneth Walker with Drake May, George Holani, Hunter Henry, Kayshon Boutte. I mean, I like this top lineup quite a bit. So this is one you could play, Sean, for sure. But let me see if there's something I like better. See if I have any Mac Hollins. I think the ownership is so off that this might not be. Henry captain. Yeah. All right, I'm trying to find if there's one that I love here in the top 20. Oddly enough, I actually think the top one is my favorite that I'm seeing because I like Kayshon Boutte quite a bit. Drake May, Hunter. Yeah, it's actually just the top one, Sean. I love this top lineup. Kenneth Walker captain with Drake May, George Holani, Hunter Henry, Kayshon Boutte, and Ramondre Stevenson. That looks great to me. Tried to find a different one that I like better. It doesn't have the Patriots defense, who I really love. Doesn't have Mac Hollins. But I think it's a strong lineup. This one's fairly strong. JSN, AJ Barner, Patriots, Stevenson, Darnold, Henderson. All right, I'm gonna run the Sims one more time. I'm gonna refresh everything one more time because people are telling me that the ownership has changed quite a bit. I was supposed to have left half an hour ago. All right, let's see. Okay, the ownership is much, much better now. Okay, now I'm just going to, before running the Sims, I'm just going to make my adjustments. So I'm going to go to the inputs, sack rates, moving them way up. Points scored, I'm going to move down a little bit. I'm going to move the rush rate down to 45%, 38%. Going to move some of Kenneth Walker's usage to George Holani. What else? Going to move some of... Going to get rid of Brady Russell. Bear lower. Saubert lower. Move Elijah Arroyo lower. All right, we're still high. What else do I want to do here? Cooper Kupp down to 15%. Tempted to get rid of Saubert, but I'm not going to. I am going to get rid of Derek Young. Okay. Patriots. Going to move down to 20 points scored. Pace of 57. Going to move some of this work from Henderson to Stevenson. Get rid of some of the Diggs usage. Move Hollins and Boutte up. Pop Douglas down. Okay. I think that looks close to where I'd like to be. I also get to a little bit of the kickers. All right, that'll work. Good enough. 300. We're good. Thanks for joining me, Sentinel. It's been a fun year. It's been fun doing this throughout the season. Man, we did a lot. We did a lot of these shows. Appreciate you, Anxious Dog Bomb. Prefer Booty or Myers on DraftKings? I would say Booty because he's going pretty low owned. Can you give us captain and flex ownership again after the refresh? Hopefully you caught some of it as I was talking just now. Aren't you concerned that the Pats have had an elite run defense, so wouldn't May be a better captain play? Do you mean the Seahawks have had an elite run defense? Oh, better than Kenneth Walker. You're going back to that lineup. I think that's, yeah, you can make that switch if you wanted to. I'm going to be spreading out my captain exposures, so I'll have plenty of May captain, I would think. I unfortunately do need to get going. This show was supposed to end like 45 minutes ago, and I was supposed to leave my house half an hour ago. So, yeah, I got to get out of here. But I will read this off one last time. You had a dream last night and the name Douglas. I mean, shit. Hopefully that doesn't mean I'm late on my Pop Douglas. Yes, I have branched out on my own. Well, I've branched out to do showdown shows on this channel throughout all the NFL season. I'm also doing work with Roto Grinders, Run the Sims. I'm doing work not really on their channel, but I do a lot of Run the Sim stuff on this channel. I work with Fantasy Points. I do a show every Friday with 4 for 4 during the regular NFL season. So I branched out on my own. I am here. You can subscribe to the Flannelverse YouTube channel to find most of my content. I'll be doing NFL best ball throughout the off season. So yeah, I branched out on my own, but work with many other companies. Am I happier here? Yeah, I'm. I would say maybe I'm happier. I don't know. I was happy with Stochastic also while I was there, but I do kind of enjoy being my own boss. So yeah, I would say maybe I'm happier. It is pretty nice. What do you do after NFL season? I will do. First of all, I'm going to be gone for most of the rest of the month, so I won't be doing content in February, but then in March, I'll be doing at least some best ball content on this channel. I might start doing more work with Fantasy Points in the offseason. I've talked about it with Scott. So potentially doing more work with Fantasy Points. I haven't decided if I'm doing NBA content. I've talked about it with Brian with Run the Sims, doing some NBA content. I don't really like starting midway through the season and like I'll be coming back after a few weeks off. So I'll probably just stick with NFL, but I'll think about doing some NBA content. So still figuring some stuff out. I'm also trying to get into, doing some of my own stuff as far as like learning to code some, so I can maybe make some basic tools in the short term, maybe learn how to do projections, that kind of stuff. Planning on putting out best ball rankings. So yeah, I'm sort of adjusting what I'm doing this off season. Whereas last off season, I just kept doing best ball content throughout the off season. I'll be doing that as well, but I think I'll be doing a little bit more this off season, kind of changing some of what I'm doing or adding to what I'm doing. Oh, you need the baseball. Man, I hate doing baseball content so much. And there's really good baseball content out there. I don't really have strong opinions or like player takes in baseball, so it's less fun for me to do. Coursera. I think that I have heard of Coursera. I've signed up for a Udemy course that Adam actually sent me. So that is the course that I've signed up for. I like playing baseball DFS. Just talking about it to me is just like you're trying to predict the stack ownership and figure out who you want to play based on that. And I don't know, it's just. I was accused at Stochastic. Some members accused me of killing their baseball content because people found it so boring listening to me, and that because I just don't have player takes about MLB. Adam is much better. Adam might do some baseball content. I did enjoy when I got to host shows with Adam and I could just ask him stuff. But yeah, it's not my favorite to do baseball. I think I'll have some defense captain, yeah. All right, I'll have to check out Coursera also. All right, we are almost done here. I'm leaving after this sim regardless. So yeah, this show has gone on quite long, but I'll read off what I have before I get out, and then I got to get out quick because we're not going to be there for the start of the game if we don't leave soon. All right, there we go. So, quarterback, I now have 47 and 24 of May. That looks great. 40 and 3 of Sam Darnold. Running backs, I'm now at 50 and 21 of Ramonde. Okay, that looks good. I'm lighter than I'd like to be on Kenneth Walker. 34 and 4. I'm going to accept it though. 22 and 1 of George Holani. That looks good. 8% Trevion Henderson. All right, this'll work. JSN, we're at 32 and 29. Mac Hollins 34 and 2. Diggs 23 and 1. That's light, but I'm actually not that far off the field. That seems fine. 34 and 5 of Boutte. Love that. He's going low owned. Shaheed 24 and 2 looks fine. Cooper Kupp, I'm only at 8%. That scares me a little. 10% Pop Douglas. I'm over the field. 1% Bobo. None of Kyle Williams. I'm mostly okay with what I'm getting there. Tight end, I have 26 and 1 of Barner. 20 and 3 of Henry. 5 of Austin Hooper. 6 of Arroyo. 1 of Westover. Would have liked more Henry, but we'll take it. Defense, yeah, I have 41% total of the Patriots. I do have 2% at captain, 20 and 1 of the Seahawks. And then at kicker, I have 13% Borregales, 4% Jason Myers. I kind of hate that, but I don't have time to adjust. I need to get out of here. All right. Really appreciate all of you. That is going to do it for the final DFS show of the season. If you haven't done so, please do subscribe to the channel. There is, again, if you want to join the Flaniverse Discord, there's a link in the description of this video. It's free to join if you want to keep up with what I'm doing throughout the off season. It'll show you when I'm going to go live on YouTube. We talk there throughout the off season, so would love it if you feel like joining another Discord. Again, link in the description, free to join. Really appreciate all of you supporting me throughout this NFL season. It's been fun growing the channel. It's been fun, hanging out with you all throughout the NFL season. So have appreciated you. Hopefully I will see you soon in the off season as we do best ball, etc., etc. But regardless, good luck tonight. Hopefully you all win some money. Let me know if you do. Would love to hear from you, hear how it goes for you, especially if you do well. Please do let me know. But thanks everybody. I got to get out of here. I will see you soon. Good luck tonight.